Hello and welcome everybody. My name is Tommy Gilmore with Noisy Bird Digital Marketing, and you are watching another episode of Spotlight Southern Utah. If this is your first week here, every week I talk to a different business owner about what it's like to own their business, how they're impacting the community. And today I'm really excited. I'm talking to Caleb Bittar. He's the owner of a few different businesses here in town, so I'll let him talk about those. But Caleb, thanks for letting me come by and chat with you today.
Yeah, well, first, thanks for having me on, Tommy. It's a real pleasure to be able to do things like this and help service the community. So, my name is Caleb Bittar. I have a couple different companies here in town. Some that people might be familiar with are Cedar Fun Center, more recently Snap Fitness, the 24-hour gym on Main Street, and then Bittar Consulting.
That's awesome. Yeah, so you weren't the starting owner of at least the two businesses, but you came to acquire them. I'm excited to talk a little bit more about those, but tell people just kind of how you got started with entrepreneurship and buying businesses, what made you interested in doing all that.
Yeah, so I always like to tell people this all started with laser tag.
Okay.
When I was a kid, at the age of 13, I started playing competitive laser tag with some friends in Colorado. And growing up, I met so many people across the country and actually, fun fact, across the world that also played competitive laser tag, this really niche hobby.
Interesting.
Well, long story short, one of my good friends ended up taking over the fun center here from some previous owners with some business partners, and they needed somebody to move down here and do it all with them.
Okay.
And I happen to have some experience in running a family entertainment center in Loveland, Colorado, Loveland Laser Tag, phenomenal place, and it brought me down here. So after a little bit of time, I had the opportunity to save up some money by working some jobs and eventually got a buy-in offer for Cedar Fun Center. So it all started with a laser tag and a chance from some amazing people. So from there, it's just kind of snowballed into helping other business owners, which kind of led me into starting my own consulting firm. And then after that, having the opportunity to buy the gym here in town. So that one just kind of stumbled upon it when I was working out one day, and I was like, what if we buy this place? So, yeah.
That's really cool. So, I mean, I don't think, you're younger than most people, even probably that are watching, but most people wouldn't look at you and say, oh, that guy owns multiple businesses and is capable of running them effectively and things like that. For you, what are some of the challenges that have come with buying businesses, owning them, and then making them into profitable, successful staples here in Cedar City?
Yeah, well, that's a great question, and the answer is actually, it's really humbling to say out loud, but it's a lot of failure and a lot of figuring it out. A lot of my handicaps have come from inexperience.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's only so much reading and talking and researching you can do, but when it comes to actually being out and in the field of entrepreneurship, as you know, there's a lot of failing.
Yeah.
So all we can do is hope to fail forward and hopefully not land on our face too hard, maybe catch ourselves, push back up and keep moving. But definitely being a young entrepreneur, in my mind now, is such an advantage. However, I would definitely say lack of experience and building that experience has been one of the most fun things, but also one of the most challenging things.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and like you said, at least for this venture, you had other business partners around you, right?
Yeah.
And so I'd imagine it was helpful to have other people that had some experience in the business world, or at least other people to kind of rely on, because entrepreneurship can be really lonely.
That is true. I talked to a lot of entrepreneurs that had to do it themselves or ended up doing it themselves, but I was extremely fortunate to not only work with two, but three now extremely close friends. I would all consider them family and mentors. So they've definitely helped me become the man and the entrepreneur I am today. So.
That's awesome. So I guess speak to a little bit that piece of there's the failures, there's the inexperience, and then there's also the logistics side, right? And so, we can talk about, I'm just figuring it out, but what are some of the logistics when it comes to buying a business that people might not know? Like, if you were to come to me and say, hey, I want to buy a business, how do I do it? If there's not a for sale sign in the window, I couldn't tell you. So talk people through what that looks like and what some of that process might be.
Well, another great question, Tommy, and this is one of my favorite stories I've been telling people recently about how I bought Snap Fitness in Cedar City.
Okay.
There was no for sale sign. There was no indicator that they were ready to sell. There was just two owners, a husband and a wife, staffing it for roughly 3 to 5 hours a day. They'd owned it for 12 years. And, I mean, they were just going to keep going with it.
Yeah.
But when you go into a business and you see potential, which can be anything around you, right? Whether it's something in retail or shopping or pretty much anything, right?
Yeah.
If you see potential and you see improvements that can be made, I mean, start by asking. So it was really funny. The first time I had ever talked to them, I remember knocking on the office of the previous owner of the gym, and I said, "Hey, would you guys be interested in selling?" And he laughed. He said, "That's really funny. You're really young. Have a great day." and so he was really kind about it, but he was like, he's like, "You're definitely a kid.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? We can't take $10 and sell you our business, right?" And I was like, it's like, that's totally understandable. Sit on this, and I'm going to talk to you again in a week. And so that's exactly what I did. I gave it a week, and I happened to be working out there 4 days at the time, and so I'd say hi, I'd make sure keeping him in my mind, or keeping me in his mind, right? And then a week later, I said, "Hey," I was like, "You didn't even ask me what a number would be. Like, you didn't even ask me like who I am." Like, and I was, admittedly so, I always joke. It's like I took a little offense to it. Like, do you not know I'm Caleb Bittar?
Yeah.
Who's gonna know me, right? And so we ended up sitting down. He gave me the opportunity. We went to lunch together, and I got to tell him my life story. And at that point, we still had not talked about selling or buying the business at all, right?
Yeah.
And so finally at the end of lunch, after I got to tell him who I was, what I was about, I was like, "Look, if you don't want to talk about it, that's fine, but just a ballpark number, how would you feel about this?" And he was like, "Well, I don't know." He's like, do you have that kind of money? What are you thinking?" And I was like, "Well," it's like, "Look, there's a lot of ways. There's creative financing, there's bank loans. Like, this isn't old school like in the movies where you hand somebody a briefcase full of cash and you walk out with a set of keys," right? And so he was awesome. He went, talked to his wife that night, and oh boy, he called me the next day and he's like, "My wife said that I am crazy for not talking to you sooner." And from there, it just kept going. We ended up getting lunch once a week. We started working on the franchise side of things, on a purchase agreement. We got to become really, really good, close family friends in a 6-month time span, just through talking about selling the business to me.
Yeah.
And now I consider them really good friends. We go to lunch once a week still. But to answer your question, it just comes by asking.
Okay.
And seeing potential in something. It's how can we change things around us in a positive way?
Yeah.
Whether it's people or businesses, it's anything. Change it in a positive way.
Well, and I think that at its core, that's sort of what entrepreneurship is, right? Like, you see a problem or a pain point, and you say, "I think I can make that better," right? And whether that's, "Hey, I can throw some money at this thing that maybe the owners don't have or aren't willing to do or whatever," or it could be, "Hey, there's this very niche problem that, this kind of person feels, and here's this brand new invention that helps solve it." So, there's kind of multiple sides to that scale, but it's all really at the core of what being an entrepreneur is.
I couldn't have said it better myself. That's addressing a pain point or being willing to step in and put some extra skin in the game. Because, of course, as soon as we bought it, we immediately dumped more money into it. And rightfully so, because again, it's if you see potential, you have to act on potential. It doesn't just come by taking the first step, it comes by running the mile.
Yeah.
So.
Well, for you, when you were, at Snap Fitness, what were some of the indicators that got your brain going and got you thinking of, maybe I do want to buy this place. Maybe I'm going to go do this crazy thing and talk to this owner about buying it. Like, what did you see that made you want to have that conversation?
Yeah. There's a few key indicators, but then there was a few smaller things that actually pushed me to doing it, and I think, and first I'll call out every entrepreneur in the world, right? we all at some point in time struggle with complacency.
Yeah.
And it's a real thing that we do have to address, whether it's inside us or whether it's outside, whether it's our surroundings, our businesses, or us, right? And a couple indicators were the state of the business, right? There were some cleanliness issues, some organization issues, and then really it's word of mouth. Around town, what do you hear, right? What do you hear when you talk to the other members at a facility like that? And a lot of things that I heard from people just asking very casually was, man, this place needs a fresh breath, right? And I was like, well, it's an energy issue then.
Yeah.
And that's a key indicator of when a business might be ready to sell, right? Could it use some energy? Could it use some new energy? Or does it just need like a little bit of a renewal, right? And the answer was it needs a whole fresh, just redo.
Yeah, it doesn't need a coat of paint, it needs a remodel.
Yeah, exactly. So there's some things like cleanliness and what some of the members were saying, and then looking at some pain points like, what's the equipment like? What's the building like? Is this something like, and you kind of get a sense for this as an entrepreneur. You can kind of see a business over time and you can tell whether or not it's cash flowing and the owners or investors are happy with it, or if it's just something that we're letting coast and stay complacent.
Yeah.
So, and they had put 12 years into it, 12 hard years into it. But, again, just sometimes some new fresh energy really helps take a place like that to the next level.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, when whether it's a relationship or a house or whatever it might be, like that energy when you're coming in, it like you just hit it as hard as you can. There's that honeymoon phase, right?
Exactly, a honeymoon phase. Well said.
So yeah, I mean, it's cool to see that you can bring that energy to different businesses and things like that. And we'll kind of go into what you do as a consultant, which is, I'd imagine, help people bring that same energy into their own business, right? Like if they're feeling complacent, if they're feeling just that, man, I don't know where to go with this next, or we've kind of hit this plateau, that's when people hire people like you, right?
Yeah, exactly. And there's a lot of different reasons that, my agency would come in and help a company, whether it just needs some new energy or that remodel we're talking about, or even if they're having trouble scaling where the passion's there, but now our expertise and our ideas are kind of lacking, right? We have all that technical experience, but we're not sure where we want to go from there.
Yeah.
So that, and of course my favorite, which is startups. It's that brand new, it's that firstborn. It's how do we get this thing walking and running right away?
Yep. Describing a startup as a firstborn is perfect, because as a new parent, you don't know what the heck you're doing. In the startup phase, you're just totally like, all right, I'm going to hire this person. They're going to do something, and I'm going to pay them some amount of money, and we'll just see if it works.
Oh yeah, exactly right. And that's the hard part is there's no official rule book to this, and that's something I'm working on actually that we'll talk about in a bit. But that's something that I don't think anybody realizes too. It's a lot of our first times doing anything we've ever done.
Yeah.
Even if we've done it in another business. I've never owned a gym before, and so even though I've fixed an ice cream machine at a family entertainment center, well, I've never finished fixing like a leg press machine. So it's all fun and games, really. Though it's learning. Learning's great.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, you mentioned that you're putting together different resources and things like that as part of your consulting. Tell people a little bit about like what does that look like, how, and if they're a business owner, how that might help them.
Yeah. Well, so recently in my agency, we had the discussion of how do we keep scaling. Right, we're helping other companies scale, but we're at our capacity. We're full. Our only option is to either drop clients or start outsourcing, and that's something that I personally don't want to do with business consulting, because if you hire me, you should get me.
Yeah.
If you hire my expertise, you should have access to that. And so we had the idea, and we said, well, why don't we build a community using an application called School, where we can teach new and incoming business owners the essentials, like this is how we learn discipline, this is how we rewire our brains to learn, which is another thing as entrepreneurs. You see a lot of successful entrepreneurs never stop learning.
Oh, yeah.
But how many of us finish college or finish high school, in my case, right? And then stop taking classes, stop taking courses.
Yeah.
And we need to do things. We need to rewire our brain and say, okay, we still need to learn daily.
Yeah.
Or we're not going to keep improving. So stuff like that. And then, with incoming opportunities in the AI field, it's really important that we're utilizing these resources. But again, there's no set playbook on how to do that. So we ended up about 2 months ago saying, okay, well, let's do it. Let's build the playbook. So we're working on a Facebook community first, and that'll go into a school community where people can pay a small flat fee to have access to all of those resources on how to learn, how to use AI, how to scale your business. So instead of paying a consultant thousands of dollars per month, you can pay a smaller fee, have access to all these resources, do it yourself, but still have an opportunity to talk to the team that can walk you through it.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome. I mean, that sounds like there's going to be a ton of value, not only in the Facebook group, then even more within that school community. Because, I know that when, like you said, when you're a startup or when you're kind of in those early phases of business, it's hard to look at a coach and say, hey, I can pay, what I don't know what your fees are, but we paid for coaching. It was $3,000 a month. And even that felt at our phase of business, it was like, oh, that's a big, that's a big commitment.
Yeah, I mean, for a lot of businesses, I mean, $3,000 a month can be anywhere from 10% to 50% of your profit, right?
Yeah.
And so when you dip into something like that, it's scary and it's hard for a lot of people to justify. So, and I, can't lie to you and say my fees are much cheaper than that because everybody's gotta learn and everybody's got to use those skills. So,
well, and at the end of the day, it is an investment. You can look at it and you can say, oh man, we did it for 3 months. That was a $9,000 investment.
Yeah.
But we went from making $12,000 to $15,000 a month, and now we're into the 20s.
Right.
And so it took our business into that next level to be able to hire people, to see our business at a different level, and to have somebody outside of our business say, hey, this is where you can really improve some things. And there was a ton of value. And so we've got way more than $9,000 back from doing it, but it is a big commitment and a big investment into your business sometimes.
Well, and absolutely, which is why we'll still offer those premium services, but we still do realize that we have to give entrepreneurs, business owners, or even just business managers the opportunity to scale and work on their business or even start a new business from the ground up with no prior experience, a way to dip their toes in the water. Let's say, spitballing a number here because we haven't landed on a final price, of course, but it's $300 an easier investment than $3,000.
Absolutely, yeah.
Is $30 a month for 10 months or is $300 a month for 10 months if you even just get 1 month, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, and then one of the best parts about it, in my personal opinion, is it's not just me. I'm fortunate enough to build this community with entrepreneurs that have worked on well over 24 businesses and also worked with clients that are doing 8 figures, 9 figures a year.
Yeah.
So, and in comparison, I mean, I've worked with companies that do, 5 figures a year. I've done it with businesses that make 7 figures a year, but working with people that have more experience than me and who are building out these systems with me is just going to offer that much more value for that low of a price.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. I think that I'm excited to have that. Hopefully when this episode comes out, you're close-ish to launch and we can plug that. But if not, we'll definitely keep people updated about it because I think that there's going to be a ton of value there.
Oh, thanks, Tommy.
Yeah. Well, last question I like to ask Caleb. You've been in business for several years now. You've been around other businesses that have helped businesses do 9 figures, 8 figures, variety of different niches, verticals, all that fun stuff. What's been the best piece of advice about business that you've been given?
Well, there's a quote that I actually, every single day I wake up to my alarm, as many people do. If you wake up without an alarm, good for you. I mean, you have kids, right? So those might be your alarms.
No, I have an alarm. I get up before my kids because I have to go work out before they're awake. Otherwise,
good for you, right?
Otherwise, I'm not hitting it. So.
Well, then I'll keep this brief. But I have an alarm, and every morning I have to type my 10 mantras. And this is something that I do religiously. This is part of my routine. And one of the quotes on there that I type every morning is based off an Alex Hormozy quote. He's very great. He's very famous in the business space. But he says, "Do so much in quantity and work that it would be unreasonable for you to be unsuccessful."
I love that.
And that's something that's true. It's try it all, do it all. You have the time. And if you don't have the resources, you will build the resources just by putting in the work. But just the sheer amount of work and effort that you should and can do, I mean, there's no way that you won't be successful doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely know that that's true. I know you to be a very hardworking person. I consider myself to be one as well. It takes that extraordinary effort, and then you feel like your fingers are to the bone, and you're like, I'm at my last dollar. I don't know what I'm doing, and then just like that's when it hits. You know what I mean? Yeah. Everybody that owns a business knows what we're talking about. It's that grit that it takes to own a business, to run a business, and to not rely on a quote unquote steady paycheck coming in.
Yeah. There's no such thing as steady in our industry.
Yeah.
So.
Well, Caleb, this was super fun. Thanks so much for taking the time. Is there anywhere that people can find you if they're interested in any of the ventures you're doing, or if they're interested in learning more about the business consulting?
Yeah, so I always say go ahead and send me a friend request on Facebook. It's just Caleb Bittar, Bittar. We're building out a website right now, but soon we'll have access to our Facebook community and our school group. So in the meantime, you can find me there.
Awesome.
Thanks, Tommy.
Yeah, well, thank you guys so much for watching as well. This has been another episode of Spotlight Southern Utah. We'll see you here again next week, where we'll talk to a different business owner. But until then, we'll see ya.